Gentlemen, let me ask you something sincerely, and take a moment to really think about it. When was the last time you brought her to a climax so intense she couldn't even form words afterward? Not just a pleasant experience, not simply a satisfying moment. I'm talking about the kind of release that makes her entire body shake, leaves her breath unsteady, and stays on her mind long after it's over. Take a breath. Think honestly. Because most men, when asked that question, either pause for a long time or quietly realize they may never have given that to a woman at all. And I want you to know that is not a reflection of your character. It is not a reflection of your love for her. It simply means that no one ever gave you the right information at the right time. And here's an honest reality. If nothing comes to mind, or if it has never happened, you are far from alone. More than 70% of women have never reached a deeply fulfilling climax through oral intimacy. And surprisingly, the reason isn't what most men assume. It's not about skill, it's not about endurance. In truth, it comes down to something far simpler that many men over 60 were never shown or taught. That number, 70%, stopped me the first time I encountered it in my research. Think about what that means in real terms. The vast majority of women in long-term relationships, marriages, partnerships, have gone years or even decades without experiencing something their bodies are fully capable of feeling. Not because their partners didn't care, but because the information simply wasn't there. I'm Dr. Julia Rhodes. As a men's intimacy therapist who has guided thousands of couples, I've learned this. The gap between average pleasure and truly unforgettable pleasure often depends on one overlooked principle. Today, I want to explain exactly what that principle is, and why it works especially well for mature men who understand that patience is strength, not limitation. In my years of work, I have sat across from men of all ages, men in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and I have heard a version of the same sentence more times than I can count. I want to do better for her. I just don't know how. That sentence, spoken quietly but honestly, is exactly why I created this method and why I continue to share it. Because wanting to do better is everything. And once you have the right understanding, doing better becomes surprisingly natural. Here's where many men make a mistake. They immediately focus on her most sensitive area and remain there continuously. They believe their role is to stimulate the clitoris directly and intensely until climax occurs. But consider this. The clitoris contains more than 8,000 nerve endings, more than any comparable part of the male body. Imagine someone immediately applying strong stimulation to your most sensitive area without preparation. Instead of pleasure, it would likely feel overwhelming. This is not a minor point. It is the central reason so many well-intentioned efforts fall short. The approach isn't wrong because of a lack of effort. It's wrong because of a misunderstanding of how the body actually works. And once that misunderstanding is corrected, the entire experience transforms. Not gradually, dramatically. The female body responds best to rising waves of sensation, not sudden intensity. Once you understand this principle, everything begins to shift. Think about it in a different context. Consider what makes a truly great meal memorable. It isn't the first bite, it's the progression, the way flavors build, contrast, and develop over the course of the experience. Or consider a piece of music that moves you. It isn't one sustained note played loudly from start to finish. It is the variation, the quiet moments that make the crescendo feel earned. The body responds to intimacy the same way. Preparation creates depth, and depth creates the kind of experience that lingers. This is actually where mature men gain a powerful advantage. Younger men often rush because they equate speed with effectiveness, but experience teaches you that meaningful things take time. And that same patience becomes the foundation for a level of pleasure many women have rarely experienced. This advantage is real, and it is significant. The men I work with, who are in their 60s and beyond, consistently report that once they shift their approach, their partners respond in ways that surprise even them. Women who had quietly accepted that a certain level of pleasure simply wasn't available to them, that it was something that happened to younger people or in movies, suddenly discover that their bodies are fully capable. That discovery changes things. It changes how she sees herself. It changes how she sees you. And it changes the entire dynamic of your relationship in ways that extend well beyond the bedroom. The method I'm introducing is known as arousal cycling. It works because it aligns with how the nervous system processes pleasure. When you gradually bring her close to climax, pause briefly, and then build again, you are doing more than teasing. You are allowing her body to deepen its response to sensation. This is not a new concept in the world of physiology, but it has rarely been explained in plain, practical language that men can actually apply. What I've spent years doing is taking the science and making it usable, translating the biology into a step-by-step approach that any man, regardless of previous experience, can understand and practice. Biologically, several things occur during this process. As arousal increases, blood circulation rises. Nerve endings become more responsive. Breathing patterns change. Hormones are released that amplify sensation throughout the body. When stimulation pauses just before climax, the energy that has built up doesn't disappear. Instead, it remains, making her even more receptive when stimulation resumes. Each cycle strengthens the next, until the final release becomes far more powerful and can last significantly longer. To understand why this works so well, it helps to think about the concept of neurological priming. Every time arousal builds and is then gently held before release, the nervous system essentially recalibrates. It adjusts its threshold. What this means in practice is that her body becomes increasingly capable of experiencing stronger sensation with each passing cycle. The first wave of arousal opens a door. The second pushes it wider. By the third cycle, that door is fully open, and what passes through it is an experience of a completely different magnitude. Women who experience this often describe their orgasms differently, using words like overwhelming or transformative, because the pleasure moves through the entire body rather than staying localized. I have heard women describe it as finally understanding what all the fuss was about. Others have said it was the first time they felt truly seen during intimacy. Not rushed through, not treated as a checkbox, but genuinely attended to. That feeling of being seen, of having a partner who is present and patient and paying attention, that is something that creates a bond that goes far beyond the physical. It creates trust. And trust in a long-term relationship is everything. So how do you apply this in practice? Let's go through it step by step. First, set the environment properly. Comfort matters because this approach requires time and relaxation. Elevate her hips slightly with a pillow, a small adjustment that can noticeably enhance sensation. Position yourself comfortably as well. If your body becomes strained after a few minutes, consistency becomes impossible. This step is often treated as optional, but I want to emphasize that it is foundational. Discomfort is one of the most effective barriers to arousal for both of you. If she is physically uncomfortable, her nervous system remains partially on guard, which limits how fully she can surrender to sensation. If you are uncomfortable, your attention shifts from her to your own body. The few moments it takes to set the environment properly are an investment that pays off immediately and significantly. Now comes a stage many men overlook. Begin with her inner thighs. These areas contain numerous nerve endings, yet are often ignored. Spend 2 to 3 minutes here using gentle kisses, slow licks, or soft, playful touches. Pay attention to her reactions. You may notice changes in breathing, relaxation in her muscles, or subtle movements of her hips toward you. This is anticipation forming, and anticipation creates half of the experience. Read that last sentence again, because it contains one of the most important truths in all of intimacy. Anticipation creates half of the experience. The body does not wait passively for stimulation. It begins preparing for it. As her mind registers your attention, her body begins responding before you've even arrived at her most sensitive areas. The nerve endings are already waking up. The blood is already moving. By the time you reach the destination, the journey has already done much of the work. Only after this buildup should you move closer. Even then, avoid immediate direct stimulation. Focus first on surrounding areas with light, gentle contact. You are stimulating both her body and her mind, and mental anticipation greatly increases intensity. The mind-body connection in female arousal is something that science continues to confirm and that experienced practitioners have known for a long time. A woman who is mentally present, who is anticipating, imagining, feeling emotionally safe, will experience physical sensation at an entirely different level than a woman who is simply going through the motions. Your job in these early stages is not just physical. It is to capture her full attention and hold it. When you finally reach her most sensitive area, begin softly using only the tip of your tongue. The tip provides lighter, more controlled sensation than broader pressure. Move slowly and deliberately, counting 4 or 5 seconds with each motion. The goal is rhythm and consistency, not speed. Think of yourself as guiding a musical performance, sometimes gentle, sometimes richer, always intentional. Rhythm is worth dwelling on for a moment. The human body, and particularly the female nervous system during arousal, responds to rhythm in a way that is almost neurological in nature. Consistent, predictable rhythm creates a kind of physiological trust. The body learns what to expect, leans into it, and deepens its response. When you change technique too frequently or too erratically, the body has to keep readjusting. That adjustment breaks the momentum of arousal. Consistency, counterintuitively, is more powerful than variety at this stage of the process. After several minutes, you'll begin noticing signs that she's approaching climax. Quicker breathing, rising hips, tightening thighs, or stronger vocal responses. When these signals intensify, this is your moment to pause. Learning to read these signals is a skill, and like any skill, it improves with attention and practice. In the beginning, you may miss some of the subtler cues. That is perfectly normal. What matters is that you are looking, that you are paying attention to her rather than being lost in your own thoughts or anxieties. The act of watching her closely, of being genuinely attentive to her responses, is itself something she will feel and appreciate. presence is one of the most intimate gifts you can give. Do not stop completely. Reduce intensity and shift attention to less sensitive areas, perhaps her thighs, stomach, or a kiss shared face to face while maintaining light contact with your hand. This pause should last roughly 30 to 60 seconds, enough to lower intensity slightly without losing momentum. During this time, speak softly to her. Express appreciation, attraction, or enjoyment. Emotional connection keeps arousal active even while physical stimulation decreases. I cannot overstate the importance of this moment. The pause is not a gap in the experience. It is part of the experience. What you say during those 30 to 60 seconds can deepen what happens next more than almost anything else. You don't need poetry. You don't need rehearsed lines. Authentic words. I love you. You are beautiful. I want this for you. Spoken quietly and genuinely, keep her emotionally connected and mentally present. And as we've discussed, mental presence amplifies everything that follows. Then return using the exact same rhythm and technique as before. You'll likely notice her responding more quickly now. What previously required several minutes may take only 1 or 2. This acceleration is your confirmation that the method is working. Her body has retained the arousal from the first cycle. The nervous system is primed. The emotional connection has been reinforced. When you return with the same consistent rhythm, everything her body built during the first cycle is still there, ready to continue climbing from where it left off, rather than starting over from the beginning. As she nears climax again, pause once more. By the third cycle, her sensitivity will be dramatically heightened. Each touch feels stronger because arousal has been gradually layered and stored. Most women respond strongly after 2 or 3 cycles, though individual responses vary. Some women will tell you afterward that the second pause felt almost unbearable, not in a negative sense, but in the sense that the anticipation had become so intense that the desire for release was overwhelming. That is precisely the state you are aiming to create. Because when release finally comes from that state, the difference between what she would have experienced with a standard approach and what she experiences through arousal cycling is not subtle. It is profound. Watch her carefully. If she pulls you closer, moves urgently, or asks you not to stop, that is your signal for the final phase. These are not ambiguous signals. When a woman pulls you closer with urgency, when her hands press against you, when her voice takes on a quality that leaves no room for interpretation, she is telling you something clearly and honestly. Honor that communication, trust it, and follow it. For the final buildup, maintain the same rhythm and pressure without changing pace. Avoid speeding up or altering technique. Consistency allows her body to fully release control. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive part of the entire method for many men. Every instinct may tell you to intensify, to speed up, to add pressure, to match the rising energy. Resist that instinct. The consistency you have built is what her body has learned to trust. Changing it now would be like pulling the foundation from beneath a building at the exact moment it reaches its highest point. Hold steady. Let the work you've done carry her the rest of the way. When climax happens, it may appear much more intense than usual. Her body may tremble, her reactions may grow louder, and the experience may last longer. That is the intended outcome. It is also, for many couples, a moment of genuine emotional significance. I have had clients tell me that watching their partner experience that level of pleasure, knowing they were the one who gave it, changed how they felt about themselves. It restored confidence that years of routine or uncertainty had quietly eroded. That restoration matters. It matters for him, for her, and for everything that exists between them. Afterward, don't withdraw immediately. Gradually soften stimulation while maintaining gentle closeness. Many women become highly sensitive following climax, so direct intensity may feel overwhelming, but sudden separation can feel disconnecting. Gentle touches and soft affection help ease the transition. The period immediately following climax is often where the emotional depth of the experience is either honored or lost. Stay close. Breathe with her. Let the moment settle. The connection you've built during this experience doesn't need to end abruptly. It can continue to deepen in the quiet that follows. Some of the most meaningful conversations in long relationships happen in exactly these moments, when both people are fully present and the usual noise of life has gone temporarily quiet. Why does this approach work particularly well for men over 60? Because it aligns with your strengths. Younger men often rely on urgency and intensity. With age comes patience, awareness, and presence, qualities that create deeper intimacy. Just like appreciating fine wine, meaningful conversations, or peaceful moments, pleasure also benefits from time and attention. There is something I want to say directly to the men watching this, who may be carrying years of quiet doubt about their ability to satisfy a partner. Age does not diminish you. In the context of intimacy, the qualities you have developed over decades, the ability to slow down, to listen, to be fully present with another person, these are not consolation prizes for what youth once offered. They are genuine advantages. The man who rushes is working against the body's natural design. The man who takes his time is working with it. And working with it produces results that rushing never could. I recently explained the neuroscience behind this method in last week's newsletter, including advanced variations and ways to recognize subtle physical cues more accurately. If you're not subscribed, you'll find the link below. That newsletter goes deeper into the physiological mechanics. Why certain sequences of stimulation trigger stronger hormonal responses, how to read micro-expressions and subtle body language that most men miss entirely, and how to adapt the method based on her individual responses over time. Because while the core principles of arousal cycling apply broadly, every woman is different, and the men who learn to personalize their approach consistently produce the most powerful results. One thing I address in that newsletter that I want to briefly touch on here is the role of communication before, during, and after. Many couples, particularly those who have been together for many years, develop a kind of silent assumption that each person already knows what the other needs. That assumption, while understandable, quietly closes doors. Asking a simple question, "What feels good right now? Do you want more of that?" is not a sign of inexperience. It is a sign of genuine investment. And for most women, being asked those questions in a moment of intimacy is itself deeply affecting. It signals that you are there for her, not just going through a practiced routine. That signal, in the context of arousal cycling, adds yet another layer to everything you are already building. When you learn to provide this level of experience, confidence naturally grows. The connection between you deepens and mutual desire strengthens over time. This is the outcome that matters most to me in my work. Not just a better single experience, but a transformed, ongoing relationship. When a woman feels genuinely, deeply satisfied by her partner, she carries that with her. When a man knows he can provide that, he carries it too. The ripple effects move through the entire relationship, through communication, through trust, through the quiet, daily ways two people show up for each other. Intimacy, when it is genuinely fulfilling, is not separate from the rest of a relationship. It is deeply woven into it. I have watched couples in their 60s and 70s rediscover each other in ways they never anticipated. Men who came to me convinced that that chapter of their lives was behind them, that the best they could hope for was something comfortable and familiar, left with a completely different understanding of what was still possible. And the women in those relationships? Many of them told me it was among the most meaningful periods of their entire lives together. Not because of any single moment, but because their partner had decided to show up differently, had decided that she was worth the effort of learning something new. That decision, that intentional choice, is what created the transformation. And it is available to every man watching this, right now, regardless of age or history. This isn't about complicated techniques. It's about understanding how arousal naturally works and respecting that process. When you follow the body's natural rhythm, its rises and pauses, the results can feel extraordinary. And that simplicity is what I want you to carry away from this. You do not need props or equipment or elaborate preparations. You need patience. You need attention. You need a willingness to prioritize her experience above your own assumptions about how things should go. That willingness, combined with the method I've described, is genuinely all it takes. The complexity that many men assume must be required simply isn't there. What is required is presence. And presence is something every one of you already has the capacity to offer. I also want to address something that comes up often when I share this method with men for the first time. Some feel a momentary sense of regret, a quiet grief for the years during which they didn't know this and what might have been different if they had. I understand that feeling, but I want you to gently set it aside. The past cannot be changed, and spending energy there only steals from the present. What matters is that you know now. What matters is that the next experience you share with her can be genuinely different, not slightly improved, but transformed. That possibility is available to you right now, today, regardless of how many years have come before. And when you step into it, the only thing she will be thinking about is the man in front of her. Not the past, not what was missing, but what is happening right now and how extraordinary it feels. So let me ask you this. Are you ready to give her an experience she'll remember long afterward? Are you ready to be the man who finally, genuinely shows up for her in this way? Leave a comment and share your thoughts. And if you want the complete guide to mature intimacy, including methods and insights I can't fully discuss here, join my free weekly newsletter through the link below. I'm Dr. Julia Rhodes, and I'll see you in the next video.